Hi everyone, welcome back or welcome to my podcast, Everything Dog Training. Allowed myself to introduce myself to quote Austin Powers. I am John McGuigan. I'm a dog trainer and behaviour consultant in Glasgow in Scotland. I've been doing it for 17 years and yeah, that's who I am. If this is the first time that you're joining us, welcome, and welcome back if you're joining us again, and I really appreciate it. If you are joining us for the first time, I invite you to go and look at, or listen to rather, our back catalogue of podcasts, and there's lots of interesting stuff there. Been away from podcasting for a while, had 1,000,001 things on. It does take a little bit of my time. I try and, before, we do one a week, but it still takes some time and effort to do, so I'll try and get back into it, and we'll get some more episodes done. From what I hear, it's fairly well received. I also, or always like hearing feedback about my podcast. You can reach me by email, that's info@glasgowdogtrainer.co.uk, so .co.uk. You can get me on Instagram or Facebook at Glasgow Dog Trainer, and I'm on YouTube as well. Give me 1 second. And that was yours truly, making as himself known. We'll see how it go. He was settled, and then there was somebody outside in the stairwell, or the close as it's known in Glasgow, and he started barking. So what we're going to talk about today is my journey over the last weekend with Sonny Jim. So I'll do a wee bit of background into him and tell you a bit about that as well. Before we move on, the way that you can support my podcast and my work if you're not able to work with me in person, I've got a number of online dog training courses covering lots of stuff: aggression and reactivity, loose lead walking, recall, etc. It is glasgowdogtraineronline.thinkific, which is thinkific.com, and we've also got a monthly membership program, which is £15 a month. It works out about $19 $20, something like that. There's no minimum sign-up period, so you can cancel at any time, and all the courses are on there. So if you want to support me and my work, remember this is what I do for a living, and it's always, I think it's often tempting to think that we just bump out content for the sake of it because we enjoy it, but this is how we earn a living. So please do consider subscribing to our membership or buying one of our online courses. You'll get lots of benefit from it. If you like this podcast, you will love the membership program. We have a monthly check-in call on the first Wednesday of every month. They're all recorded in case you miss them. And there's a discussion group for you to ask questions and post videos about your training projects and problems that you're having as well. So let's get into today's topic, which is what happens when you have a teenage dog and you haven't had a good walk, which is what happened to me at the weekend. I try and have my dog trainer head on as much as I possibly can while I am out with my dog, Sonny, but I also have to recognise that I'm human as well, and I am subject to or of all the normal human behaviours and emotions that everybody else has. So we have bad days, dogs have bad days as well. You have a bad day, and if you get both of those things together, a lot of the time you're not going to have the best performance when you're out. The way behaviour works is that the environment impacts you, so it has an effect on you, and you change your behaviour and you feel stuff in relation to environmental changes, and then you act, you do certain behaviours, and that's in order to get the environment working better for you. So, and as an example of this, the window in my room where I'm recording this just now is closed, and that's because I live on a main road. So I close the window in order to be able to concentrate better on what I'm saying, and so that I'm not distracted by the sound of the traffic and the microphone isn't picking that up. So that makes my life easier for myself and gives a better product for you, okay, which then hopefully impacts my life in a positive way. So you see how I went up and changed the behaviour. But if I lived in a really quiet street, I could have that window open just now, and I actually want the window open just now because it is fairly warm. Alright, so we're balancing those things. So you see how I've got my need to have a quiet environment versus the need to have a quiet, a cool environment, and both of them are playing against each other. And that's a perfect example of what happened with Sonny, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay? Right, so we've got these are normal behaviours. Yeah, it's normal for us to be exacerbated and things like that. I lost my previous dog, Logan, so he was a big American Bulldog cross with lots of issues, and we managed his issues his whole life. He was with us for 8 years, yeah, something like that. And yeah, we lost him in October, and then Sonny Jim came into our life in November. Alright, now, having lived with a problem dog for that amount of time, for a significant portion of my life, I then wanted a dog who was going to be easy. Alright, and I did want a dog that was going to be easy, because I wanted to be able to have a normal dog owner's life, to be able to take my dog for a walk, go to the park, not be worried about him being aggressive towards people and dogs, and all those things. So Logan was a big stress bucket, and I wanted a life which was going to be easier than that, than the one that I had with Logan, as much and as I loved him. So we got Sonny last November. We were told, and we're told on good authority, we got him at the SSPCA, that he'd been an owner surrender, and he was just past 2 years old, so he should be coming up for 3 years old come August. So in a couple of months' time, he'll be 3 years old. I think he is significant. I think he's much younger than that. I think he's at least a year younger than that. I don't know. All right, we're the staff at the SSPCA get told something by the person who surrendered them, but we know that what people tell us isn't always accurate or can be relied on. So the reason why I think he's younger than that is because he acts significantly younger than that. He's a total goofball, and he acts like a really immature dog. And I would expect him to be further ahead in his development at 2.5 years than he is. Having said that, he is an absolute rock star. He is super friendly with people, so he will greet people appropriately, rarely jumps on them, so he'll go up and kind of push in towards them, into their legs, and let them pet him, or he will walk past. Alright, so one of those two things will happen. He was exceptionally friendly, over friendly with other dogs, and he wants to have a riot with other dogs. So typical, he's a typical bully, so he's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier cross, and he's big, so he weighs 35 kilos, which is about 75 pounds, so he's a big Labrador size Staffordshire Bull Terrier cross, and when he plays with other dogs, he tends to barrel in towards them, alright, and that can be off-putting for smaller dogs, older dogs, and a whole bunch of other things. So over the last 7 months now, we've done a ton of work bringing him back to getting him settled and paying attention to us. Okay, so that's been his a brief history of him. The work that I've done over the last 6 months is lots and lots and lots of engagement with me. So we play a lot of the time. I take him to the park, I take him to busy places where there's going to be other dogs and people, and I teach him to be relaxed and focused on me. We also play, which will bring his arousal level up, and then I get him settled again. So we do lots of search games, lots of can you lie down and look at me, and it's can you. This is not obedience stuff I do with them. I don't like it as a concept, and it's not the answer to this stuff. It's getting your dog engaged with you so that your dog can be relaxed and cool in most environments. So that's what we've been doing, and we do a ton of that, an absolute ton. Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the busy days with him. Monday's a quieter day, and then what's left, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are kind of in the middle. All right, so we'll go out for a quieter walk, or we'll go to, there's a dog run local to me. We'll take him down there, and I do some work with him. So we play and do some training. We do clicker training with him, and bunch of other things. Okay, now the other thing that happens is he genuinely needs his bedtime, so he goes to bed about 8 o'clock, because if he doesn't, he's a total nightmare. Right? So he will sit after 8 o'clock needing to go to bed like a child, and if he doesn't, if he's in the living room with me and watching something on the television, he starts goofing off. So he'll spin round, bark at me, try and grab a hold of my feet, or he will want to sit and be petted all the time. Okay, and I want to try and teach him to settle and to settle independently. And when I put him out into, he sleeps in my bedroom. When he comes into bed, he just settles down and goes to sleep, and then he sleeps right through. Okay, so that's that's roughly what has been going on with him over the last 6 or 8 months. Now, on Saturday, he loves outdoors. He loves the big outdoor places. I've got three local parks. So we use Bellahouston Park, which is in the south side, Glasgow Green, which is just across the river in the east of the city centre, and Rookin Glen, which is on the south side of the city as well. So these are three big parks that we've got, big urban parks, and they're great. They're really, really good. Lots of space, lots of dogs, and we can see everything coming. So those are the three parks that we do, that I've done most of the work with him. So we do recall work, and he is on his long line, lots of engagement, and he settles down. Now, if I take him to the beach, it's like his mind is blown, which happens a lot with adolescent and young dogs. The place is so exciting. It's like, oh my God, check this place. So it's significantly wider open. You've got all that water. The noise is different. The smells are different. And what's different about the beach than at the park, there's only one way there and one way back, so we can't really do a loop so readily. Okay, he runs into the surf for what we get in the Irish Sea, right? So he runs into the water and will chase the waves and grab at the waves. So I have to limit that because I don't want him consuming an awful lot of salt water. Fascinated by the River Clyde, so when we took him down to the Glasgow Green, because it's on the Clyde, he would chase the boats up and down, so we had to do some work on that. And he would want to go in and splash around in the water, not because he wants to swim, but because he wants to bite the water. Okay, so that's what goes on with him there. So the beach is overwhelming for him, and then if I take him to these kind of country park places, which is where we went over the weekend, then they can be overwhelming as well. So Saturday night, I took him out, and we've got a kind of wilderness area, if you like, between two housing estates and the golf course. It's all overgrown, and we've got deer and foxes, squirrels and rabbits. Probably not hares, I don't think, but certainly deer, foxes, squirrels and rabbits, and you'll probably have badgers in there as well, because it's adjacent to some of the golf course and to one of the big country parks. So everything was fine. First time we'd been there, long grass, and he's running around fine. Okay, and he's coming back to me when I'm called, blah, 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 blah. And then we see a roe deer. So roe deer are relatively small. They're not an indigenous species, I don't think. I think they're Chinese. So they're, what size will roe deer be? Rottweiler size, probably height-wise. Okay, so they're not bulky, but they're maybe 26, 28 inches at the shoulder, something like that. So one of them was in the grass with her head down, and as we were, we would have been downwind, the way that they can't smell. Yeah, downwind of the dog, of the deer, right? So yeah, she was upwind of us, so she wouldn't have been able to smell us coming. She lifted her head and she bolted, and Sonny took off after her. So he ran after her for about 150 metres, and then I managed to call him back in, and his head was like full of scrambled eggs. Eyes blown, pupils dilated, panting and all the rest of it. So it took me, and this is testament to him and our training, it took me about 5 minutes before he was able to take food from me, because he was so wired after the chase. So that was good. Another couple of minutes he was then able to search for food in the grass. I was then able to throw his squeaky ball, which he likes. He chased that. Then he was then able to do a static retrieve. So he holds himself in place, or I hold him in place. I throw the ball into the long grass. It goes dead, so it's not a chase he's getting. He marks where it is, runs forward, searches for it, and brings it back. So that's much lower arousal activities that we're doing there. So he's gone up from the deer, and I'm bringing him back down. And that took us about 10 minutes to do that. And then we did plenty of those games throughout the rest of the walk, which was for another 25 minutes or so. Now the reason I did that was because I didn't know if there was going to be any other deer there. It takes about 20 minutes to walk around this area. Alright, so 3/4 of a mile or something like that, or 1.5 kilometres, there or thereabouts, something like that. and lots for him to be interested in. But he was high. He was high. With the adrenaline. So got him back into the car, came home, had his dinner, big drink of water, went to bed. And this has been my first mistake. Forgot all about it. Alright, so I forgot that that's what happened to him the day before. So one of the things that happens is that people, I get it, people want a normal life with their dog. I lived with Logan for that amount of time. I want a normal life. I get that people want to take their dogs to be able to take their dogs to cafes. They may be able to take their dog on a school run, to walk the kids to school, to go to dog-friendly pubs, to take their dogs to their friends' houses and things like that. And exactly the same with children. We have to teach them to be able to do that. And because dogs are just supposed to be, right? Dogs are just supposed to be okay. They're just supposed to be able to do all these things because we've got some sort of weird societal expectation of them. They don't get the same breaks as kids do. So when you get a 3-year-old child running up and down the pub because they're overstimulated, tired, hungry, and all those kind of over emotions, people go, yeah, he's 3 years old, or she's 3 years old, and that's why she's acting like that. And the remedy to that there is to take the child home, bath, something to eat, and bed, right? Story time in bed, so to cool the child down. But we tend not to do that with our dogs, or there can be a tendency. I dare say that if you're listening to this podcast, you're saying, I don't do that with my dog. And the likelihood is that that's true, and it's because if you're listening to this podcast, you're already up there in with the people who are the proportion of population who are wanting to take really good care of their dog. All right, so but you get the point I'm making. Okay, so that the first mistake was I'd forgotten that he'd had that heavy night the day before. So I wanted to go for a nice walk in the country. I'll check the weather app, and it was going to be, the weather's been miserable here the last few weeks, which is fairly normal for summer in Scotland. 10, 12, 14 degrees and raining, so it's kind of pretty unpleasant most of the time. Cold and wet in the summer, or warm and wet in the summer, and colder or cold and wet in the winter. Yeah, the climate's just, which is why we're always miserable as we are all the time, right? So I checked the weather app, and it was the weather was supposed to break around about 11:30, okay, 11 or 11:30. So I got up with them and drove up to the park. Now, it's East Kilbride, which is one of the towns in the south of the city. It's where I grew up. It's a big new town which was developed after the war, and there's this massive country park right on the edge of the south side of the town into the countryside, and it's glorious. It's a lovely environment. It's a kind of mature wood, and with lots of open grassy areas as well, and they've got these nice trails. It's a beautiful walk. It really, really, really is. And when you get the weather for it, you know, the light comes in, and you know, the trails get dappled with sunlight, and it's just really lovely. And then there's the River Calder, which runs through it. This kind of small river runs through it as well. So it's a really lovely environment to go for a walk in. And I just wanted to go for a walk on a Sunday morning with my dog. And we get out of the car, and the second we get out, he started ignoring me, like not engaged with me at all, like wouldn't take food. I stopped for 5 minutes to see if he would look at me, and he was just like, this place is fantastic, Dad, I'm off. And he's on his long line, so his long line's 10 metres long, and he'd be running out to the end of that line and then pulling at the end of the line. So what he is saying through his behaviour there is he needs to explore faster than I am able to move. So my options there are either walk with him at that pace, in which case I'm hoofing it round the country park, which is not why I wanted to go up in the first place. I'm going to pause there for a second. Okay, his needs and wants and my needs and wants, and they were clashing on Sunday morning, and that's often what happens with our adolescent dogs. It happens in a lot of relationships with your spouse, with your kids as well, but you're at odds with what they want and need, okay? And that's what was going on with him. So I wanted a nice leisurely walk. he wasn't ready for a nice leisurely walk. I'll get to the solutions and what we do next towards the end of this. And so running to the end of the lead, zigzagging all over the place, up and down, searching for rabbits and squirrels. Like, oh my God, this place is amazing. And I tried to keep up with him. Okay, so I'm constantly on the lead, calling him back in, slowing him down using the lead. So lots of physical wrangling of him. He's wearing his harness and he's in his 10-metre line. But the first 15 minutes of the walk, not pleasant. That can happen with him sometimes, and a lot of the time once he's had his initial outburst of energy, he runs around and sniffs, he will then settle down. So when I take him to the local parks here, the first thing I do is we do some training and we play some games. So he'll have a few chases of the ball, he'll do some static retrieves. I play a toss the treat game, so I throw the treat for him, he runs and gets it, I run off in the other direction, he comes and chases me, I throw the treat again and we run backwards and forwards. So as a young dog he gets to engage with me in that way through a kind of warm-up exercise, but also to run off some of his steam that he's built up. Okay, and I didn't do that on Sunday because I just wanted to walk in the park with my dog, right, and just walk along this leafy trail along the river. And the route that I take is about 1.5 miles. Yeah, so a leisurely pace will take you about 40 minutes, something like that. Yeah. All right. So I didn't do that. He hoofs it out in front of me. We then go down to the river and he sees 2 dogs swimming in the river, and I was then thinking there's a Labrador and a Vizsla, both girls and both older than he is. So I then have to pump the brakes on him using a lead to say to him we're not going in there and steam training into those 2 dogs and barreling into them. And so we did some work standing at the river bank, letting him watch the dogs. He then had a splash around in the river, but then because he's overexcited, started grabbing at the water, so I had to bring him back out. So even that exercise of taking him into the water and letting him splash about wound him up a bit more. Okay, so back onto the path. We pass over the walk about 10 people with their dogs. Generally he does fairly well, he just wants to steam ahead. But the whole time he's just racing forwards. And by this point, I've been into this about half an hour, 40 minutes at this point. My shoulders and my back are starting to get sore from having to wrangle him. And one of the things that I don't, being aware of the things that annoy us, and I know where it comes from with me, most of it's childhood stuff, from my siblings, which is fine, knowing where this stuff comes from. I know nobody likes being manhandled and having that level of physical pressure on them, but it's something that's one of the things that really pushes my buttons, if you start pushing me around physically, and I don't mind it when I'm doing jiu-jitsu at all, okay, but it's completely different, and probably the jiu-jitsu has helped me with it to some degree, all right, to be able to get my head around that feeling, of being physically moved through space against your will. Right, so now, I'm going to pause there for another second. The other thing during this, I am trying to remain true to my ethical treatment of him. So I don't want to shout at him, I don't want to physically correct him, I don't want to be giving him a hard time. He's already having a hard time as it is. However, there's a balance there between just paying horribly into the behaviours that he's already doing, which means that they might be worse the next time we do that. Okay, so we've got those things and remaining true to our ethical standards, and that again, challenging. Okay, throw in there a heavy dose of needing to go to the toilet and being hungry, right, and probably being a little bit dehydrated as well. Yep, we're starting to get there, right, which is, if you're watching this having seen the little video I put up on Instagram and Facebook, that starts to explain the exasperated face that I had on me. Alright, so we walk back up the trail, okay, and I start putting took him off the long line and put him back on his 8-foot lead, which is about 2 metres 30, 2 metres 40, something like that. Maybe a little bit longer than that, but thereabouts, 2.5 metre long. And we did some loose lead walking stuff up the trail, and that was just mainly not so much to teach him not to pull, but it was to take the pressure off my shoulders and my back. Okay, so lots of U-turns, up and down, up and down, up and down, and his performance was all over the place. Yeah, and I'm still 15-minute walk back from the car at this point. Okay. Yeah, so just not now. In the grand scheme of things, right, this is where we need to pause. If this is the worst day that I ever have with this dog in my life, I'm doing okay, and so is he. Okay. I remember this story came. I was speaking to my kids are in their 20s, but I was speaking to them recently about this, and I think they were probably about 9 and 11 years old, and I wanted to go and see a film at the cinema, which they didn't really want to go and see, but I knew that they would like, and they started kind of whining about it, and we had the conversation with them to say, see if this is the worst thing that I ever ask you to do, right? We are doing okay, all right? So even though it wasn't a nice experience for me, if this is the worst experience I ever have with this dog, beyond the end of his life, okay, which is, it's always that bittersweet time, yeah, at the end of your dog's life. If this is the worst time that I ever had with it, then we're doing okay. Okay, it's all relative, isn't it? He's not biting me, and I don't stick a prong collar or a shock collar on him. Okay, so this is the worst that's happening. However, we can be lured into thinking, oh, that's okay then. It's not. We have to keep driving, I think, towards excellence. And this will be a subject I'll do of another podcast in the future. It'll be out over the next week or so, or 2 weeks, hopefully, about it's good enough. Is good enough good enough? Sometimes yes, but it shouldn't be the standard that we set. Okay, good enough shouldn't be the standard that we set. I don't think. I'm also careful of using the word should. All right, so according to me, my opinion is that shouldn't be the standard. So qualifier of the word should. Okay, so we get up to the top of the hill, and start on the bench where I videoed that little video and started to settle myself. So we sat there. He jumped up on the bench next to me and then jumped up onto it's a picnic table, and then jumped up on top of the picnic table. So I was like, nah, you need to get down from there, pal. This is where people have you're not sitting up there. I don't mind using it as a piece of agility equipment occasionally, but you're certainly not sitting on it. Okay. So I brought him down, and then I just kind of felt the wind and the warmth of the air in my face, and did some breathing and brought myself back down, and so did he. And then we had an okay walk back to the car, which was about another 10 minutes back to the car. All right. And then way back down, put some nice music on back home, so about 25-minute drive home. Nice music on, windows down, to get some air blown into the car, to let him cool down and to let me cool down physically and emotionally. All right. So that was what happened. All right. Just not the best walk that I'd ever had with a dog. Certainly not the worst by far. Right. By far. And not the worst training that I've ever done with a dog either. Sometimes when I'm working with clients, just the dog is just so overwhelmed, and we've got some pressure from the client for me to be able to come up with some solutions. Okay, so that's what happened. Now, what do we do moving forward? If I look at his wants and needs versus my wants and needs, so he's not ready to go for that walk yet the way that I want to go for that walk. So we've got two options. I either go for that walk on my own, or I take him up to that place and do some version of it. Now, I get it. We are, from where I live, I'm about 45 minutes from the coast. Okay, so yeah, about 45 minutes driving down to Ayrshire, the Ayrshire coast. It's not a huge trek, but it's enough of a trek. It's the same as the other day, a 25-minute drive to the country park. It's enough of a trek that I want it to be a good experience. I've invested that time and energy into getting there, and you go, this is what I want from this, having invested that. Okay, so he's doing well at the 3 local parks. We've got another local park, Pollock Park, which is a kind of forest park, if you like. Lots of mature woods. I can take him there. We've also got Highland cattle there as a tourist attraction. And I can take him there deliberately in order to work through that environment which he finds overstimulating. So it's a 5-minute drive to the mouth of Pollock Park. I can park the car, take him in, and I can do some work getting him settled into an environment which is similar to the park the Calder Glen Park that I used on Sunday. Okay, so can we take something from that? Okay, and then practice it. The next time I go to Calder Glen, I go up with the expectation, or I go to the beach and I go with the expectation of training him, to settle down and pay attention to me. And that might be done more in the car park, so I might have to spend 10 or 15 minutes in the car park first, seeing if he can settle, and then have to repeat that process to see if I can get the amount of time it takes him to settle reduced, so he can then settle after 10 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, and then after 30 seconds, that's what happens through maturity. Think of when you're going on holiday. So an adult behaviour for an adult level of excitement going on holiday, I'm not judging anybody with this, right? Going on holiday isn't that you can't sleep the night before. Okay, that's a childlike or an immature version of I'm so excited about going on holiday I can't sleep. As we mature, that level of excitement or the ability to deal with it, level of excitement reduces, or the ability to deal with that excitement increases. Alright, so you can just go, I'm really looking forward to my holiday, but it's not as if I can't eat and think about anything else in the process. Okay, so as we mature, he's able to calm down much more quickly. So I then take him to the beach, or I take him to the country park, and I just go into the mouth, or I go 5 minutes up and down the trail, and I practice going up and down the trail with him until he settles. And then I might have to go home at that point, because that might take half an hour. Okay, and I get it, you've invested that 45 minutes to drive to the beach. I was supposed to do some training for half an hour. If you want a nice walk with your dog as they mature, this is what we do, okay, as positive trainers. And then we just build from there. And I'm not saying that this is easy, because I fell short of that mark, that standard that I've just laid out. I fell well short of that over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. And what I should have done on Sunday morning is remembered that he had chased the deer the night before and gone to a familiar environment with him and done lots of the easy stuff there, the chasing the ball, paying attention to me, doing some training, watching dogs and people at distance, looking at kids playing football or cricket, and those types of things. So reminding him, I get that you're still wired from last night, but can we come back into doing this? And it's can we come back into doing this which we have already done well and is well practiced. Okay, so we're bringing the dog back into that. Hey, remember I'm here? Remember we're doing this? Oh God, I do remember doing this, Dad, but it's really hard. I know it's hard, but can we do this? I can do a wee bit of it. Excellent, son. That's lovely. Can you do a little bit more? Yeah, I'm a wee bit calmer now, Dad. Cool. Alright, and then we build from there. So, lastly, your kind words for this, those of you who commented on Facebook and Instagram were lovely, so thank you. It's the same as with lots of things. There's pros and cons to it. If I show mistakes during training, you get all the nut jobs that want to stick a prong collar or a choke cord, like a grot collar or a dominant dog collar on your dog. They all pile on and say you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so you show some of your mistakes, and then you show the recovery for it. But all that they will use is they just cherry pick that, and they use that as evidence that this isn't working, rather than looking at the whole thing. Okay, and we do that exactly the same. Okay, we look at the stress signals that the dog throws out when they're corrected on a collar, and we ignore all the other stuff. And you have to look at the whole thing and be able to rationalise and argue your position, looking at the dog as a whole and their treatment as a whole. So if I show my mistakes, these things happen. If I don't show the mistakes and don't just on that, just before we move on, a lot of people are like, it's dead brave. It's not, but I don't think it is brave, particularly for me to say I had a bit of a wobbly with my dog right at the park. I don't think it's brave to say that. Brené Brown's work on bravery and vulnerability is really interesting to work with. So that's Brené Brown, Brene Brown, and she's a social work professor, and she's done lots of stuff on this, lots of research into it. And she says with bravery goes vulnerability, and in order to be vulnerable you have to be brave, right? So the two of them go together. I'm not risking anything by posting that. I don't think, not risking much anyway by showing that. So I don't think there's much vulnerability there. I'm not. What would I be vulnerable to? Attack by a bunch of bozos that I don't view their opinion? Yeah. So I don't think it's brave. Because there's no vulnerability there. I'm just saying this is what happened and being honest about it. So if you want to commend me for my honesty, cool, all right. And it's not all gush praise on me, right? Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. But being honest about it, saying this doesn't all go swimmingly well all the time. That they are doing that. Me being viewed, I don't like the term expert for myself. All right, I can see I have some expertise in things, and more expertise than many in dog training and things like that. I'm approaching the level in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where I should be getting my black belt within the next year or so, hopefully. All right, I'm there or thereabouts, and people think that when you're a black belt in a martial art, that that's you a martial arts master or expert. Far from it. Far from it. Okay, it's been an eternal student. So I don't like the term expert. However, I have expertise. I recognise that people will follow me for my expertise, and it reassures people that, well, if John is having a bad day with his dog, then it's okay for me to have a bad day as well. And it absolutely is. It absolutely is okay for you to have a bad day. A number of bad days means that we have to be doing something about it. And having one bad day means that we go in and we debrief what happened, reflect on what happened, and then have a plan moving forward about how to make sure that that doesn't happen again, or if it does happen again, it's a lesser version of that, and I've got ways to intervene earlier to mitigate or to ward off the amount of damage, in quotes, that is happening there. Okay, which is hopefully what I've done through this episode. And we are now at, I'm just going to check time, 38 minutes, which is not too bad actually. Okay, so I was aiming for under 45. Okay, so thanks for listening to this. Any feedback, if you just, I'll stick a little post up this evening. This will be going out on Monday the 9th, isn't it? Yep. So it'll be Monday the 9th or Tuesday the 10th, depending on how long it takes me to edit this. And yeah, I'll stick a little post up on Facebook and Instagram. If you've got feedback on it, can you do me a massive favour and just look up that post and stick a comment on it? If you email me as well or message me, that always helps, and it means I can give people the feed. I can publicise the feedback I've got on this. So it's always interesting if it hits home. Podcasting is a little bit different from Facebook and Instagram because you get some fairly instant reinforcement because you can see who's engaging with your posts. You can see the number of likes, the amount of people that your post has reached, and the comments that you get. So you get that and see how many people are sharing. With podcasting, it's a little bit of, you can check your stats, but it's a little bit of shouting into the ether and then just letting it be. Okay, so it's always nice to get some feedback. If it's if you don't agree with it, constructive feedback's always better than non-constructive feedback. I tend just to ignore that. Yeah, all right. Yeah, and consider signing up for my membership. I'll put the notes in the link for it in the show notes, and there'll be a discount code, 50% off your first month. All right. Much love to you. Catch you next time.